Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 2025 edition of the Village of Vicksburg Planning Commission meeting. Time is 7 p.m. and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Secretary Cox, could you please take roll call vote for attendance?
Yeah. Member Riashi?
Here.
Member Bailey?
Here.
Member Kissinger?
Here.
Member DeBalt?
Here.
Chairman Schenkel?
Present.
Member Cox is present. We have Zach Bishop absent and Rachel Plankenhorn and Jenner Weil.
Great, thank you. Before we dive into approval of agenda, I do have one amendment for tonight. We're going to add a section D under the DDA agenda titled Berg Bucks presentation by Village Manager Mallory. So with that, I will call for a motion to approve tonight's agenda with that amendment.
Member Riashi, motion to approve the adjustment to the agenda.
Motion from Riashi. Do we have support for that motion?
Member Kissinger, support.
Support from Kissinger. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. This time we will open it up for citizen comments. Just if anyone would like to come up, please state your full name, your home address, and time is limited to 4 minutes. Sure.
My name is David Taylor. My address is 15665 South 27th Street. I am a property owner. I'm co-owner of 2 properties right on Main Street in Washington. I know my time is limited, so I want to start by saying that I'm a huge proponent of all things improvement-wise for the village. The one-way streets, everything that's been happening to this point has been very exciting. I've lived here my entire life, and it's very, very neat to see the capital that's been invested. I do have some concerns over the new parking lot, and I didn't know if you were going to have a public forum night for this, so I just wanted to bring the concerns now. The plan calls for reduction of parking spaces from 61 to 44, and that's not taking into consideration that the upper floor residential units that are going to be occupied, that Chris Moore owns and I own and various people own, they're going to need places to park, as well as all of the Chris Moore and Mill-owned storefronts and properties. Once those are occupied, those are going to need parking spots. And yet we're stripping away parking to add some green space and islands. Deliveries to the hardware. I also speak tonight on behalf of Johnny from the hardware store. He could not be here. He asked me to please speak on his behalf. He's very concerned about the deliveries to the hardware store. Right now, those delivery trucks are delivered by full-length semis. On the passenger side of the semi-trailer is where they open the doors to the dock of the hardware store, and they offload off the passenger side. So they have to pull in from the south. This lane would have them pulling in from the north. They also they wouldn't be able to make that tight turn into either end. They right now have to come in across the edge of the parking lot and line up that way. So that kind of covers item 2 and 3. You've got Distant Whistle also getting deliveries. The way it's drawn right now with the curbs and the sidewalk, any delivery is going to block that drive, and a car comes pulling through that drive and is blocked by these deliveries, which can take up to 45 minutes for a delivery to the hardware store. They'll have to back their way all the way out onto Prairie Street and into Prairie in reverse. Okay, item number 5. It shows the northbound lane just kind of dying into that parking lot of Fred's Pharmacy. So I was just curious if that's a public-owned lot that you're planning on letting cars exit out of that space or not. There's attached garages to Rudy Callen's place as well as my place, 122 Those two garage doors would be inaccessible now because it'd be too tight of a turn to get a vehicle into those. I've seen the efforts that the gym and the village has made to, direct visitors and people visiting the town and patrons to the Main Street side and the Prairie Street side. I am just questioning what's the benefit of driving them to the back side of the building when only two locations have rear entrances, the Distant Whistle and the hardware store. Curbed islands and sidewalks create a lot of obstacles for snow plowing and street sweeping. Watching how they plow that thing now, they take everything to the south and pile it in huge piles. These also create trip and fall hazards because you're parking next to curbed islands. You get out, you have to step over curbs, you have to step up onto sidewalks. So it's a liability. And obviously more work to do with the flower beds and that kind of thing. Item 11, there's 4 buildings along this stretch here that are not restored yet or not in the process of being restored. 116, which is the brewery supply, 118, which is the Distant Whistle, 122, which is my building, and 110 Washington, which is my building. If any of those 4 buildings undergo construction, as we've seen with Hills, it could block that proposed lane for months. It's already been a significant amount of time. They're doing a wonderful job, but what are you going to do at that point since there's nowhere else to direct traffic and it would become a dead end? And then lastly, the pedestrian traffic on the rear side of the block is minimal. I am up there a lot. I see very few people walking across this lot. So to put in a dedicated sidewalk that feeds the back of the buildings, I would certainly think you'd want them to walk half a block further and get on Main Street and actually see the storefronts that these patrons have spent so much time putting together. And then I've skipped item number 6. I think speed is a real concern. You put a fresh paved shortcut, as I put in quotes, that connects Washington and Prairie. I can just imagine how people are going to be, especially kids, using that as a thoroughfare at high speeds.
Great.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And if I can, if
Sure.
you stick around one, I'll answer under my time on when we talk about this grant award.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to stay after or meet with you whenever.
Yeah,
but-
that'd be
but-
great. Appreciate
okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, we will move on to approval of minutes. Trust everyone's had some time to review the April minutes, and when you're ready, I will call for a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion from DeBalt. Do we have support for that motion?
Bailey, support.
Support from Bailey. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. All right, on to our planning commission items, our needs, wants, and wishes conversation for next year's fiscal year budget.
Yeah, planning commission the most significant thing is going to be the revision or complete update of our zoning ordinance. We've asked Kyle if you want to give kind of a summary, but we received a $42,500 grant from MISHDA of the state of Michigan that will incorporate and fund so we can structurally have an appropriate 2025 ordinance in place. And I'll turn it over to Kyle to talk about kind of the process we're going to go forward through the remainder of this calendar year to get this project across the finish line.
Thank you, Mr. Mallory. So as Mr. Mallory indicated, we are undertaking a significant portion of a zoning ordinance update. It will be a revamped product. I know last fall we went through a slew of specific text changes. Now it's time to incorporate those and give our ordinance an update. I included in your packet information as well that it appears that our ordinance was first drafted, or the current one was in '76. So it's been some time since we've had a thorough revamping of that. Further past that, Chapter 475 of our general codes online is our zoning ordinance. And I don't know how many of us are familiar with what all our ordinance entails, which is why there's the next 4 pages of the categories or articles in there, just so the commission has some background of what actually is within our ordinance in that regard, because I don't know how many of you spend time in that. So what we're looking to do over the next coming months, and hopefully have everything wrapped up by May of next year, is go through and dive more into our residential unit densities, look at some lighting standards. We've already touched on some parking standards last fall. Look at the zoning districts for potential consolidation, expand our definitions as well, look at what is permitted in each district. Right now, when Mr. Mallory and I get phone calls about what's permitted, I have to play the fun game of, well, that sounds similar to this from '76, so let's, we'll lump it under that. Special land uses will be revamped as well, and then as well, Mr. Mallory has asked for mixed uses. So there'll be a lot of items within this ordinance update over the coming months that we'll look at. I'm not looking to reinvent any wheel here with the Planning Commission. We're just looking to expand and simplify and really enhance a lot of our regulations to, as Mr. Mallory indicated, bring them into 2025. So with that, what we are asking for as members of the community, business owners, residents on this commission, to provide any details or analysis of what you think would be applicable or appropriate for us to review further. What are you hearing from when you talk with the residents or other community members about some of the struggles? As business owners, what are you finding, struggles on in that regard? And we already know that housing is a critical component throughout the state, so we are going to look at how we can expand housing options within the village. So that would be something we'd ask, for the commission as well, their insight of what you are seeing to be perceived barriers in our current ordinance. And I'm not so concerned, if you haven't looked at it, that's why I kind of gave you the list run through of what is actually in our ordinance. These are just the subheadings and the chapter headings, and then there's actual details online as well. So when we get to next May, if not sooner, our intent is to have a revamped ordinance as well, renumber, restructure, get it graphically rich as well, so when you flip through it, you can actually find what you're looking for, and we're not having to play the guessing game on a lot of this. So with that, Mr. Mallory, is there anything else you'd like me to touch on tonight, sir?
That will need to be improved, so.
Kyle, I have a question. Maybe 5-6 years ago, we recodified ordinances, if I'm saying that correctly. How does this impact that? So I thought we went through a whole big process of.
If I can, that process was because there was so many hodgepodge ordinances within the village system. The codification process was to get rid of the duplications.
Got it.
And prioritize what one would be more applicable. And that needed to be done, which, if my memory serves me, was about a 30-month project, and needed to be completed prior to making it accessible online. So it did, that process didn't update any language within the overall ordinances of the village.
And just kind of cleaned up dupes and all that stuff.
Or if there was counter competing ordinances that might have given the reader a choice of what ordinance they felt was the oversight. You can add something I forgot technically, but.
I think beyond that, Mr. Mallory, this will be, something we'll definitely want the planning commission's input for. As again, like I mentioned, if you are out talking with, your colleagues, cohorts and so forth, what you're hearing, this is the time to bring that forward. If you are aware of uses in our existing ordinance and those can be found online that, aren't listed as well, it'd be helpful to know what you'd like to see so we can try to incorporate those into here as well. Working with Mr. Mallory, we're going to try to clean up a lot of these items as well so it's not so cumbersome. So that way when we flip to a zoning district, you can have more of the regulations right there up front instead of having to reference 8 different portions of our ordinance. So it will be more user-friendly in that regard as well.
Any questions for Mr. Mucha from the Planning Commission? Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah.
All right, on to our DDA agenda. The first item on our list there is the MEDC grant, and I will kick it over to Mr. Mallory.
Sure, and this is more from a high altitude because we're just progressing into a project that I will find out the timeline constraints, but predictably is a 2026 turn dirt project on it. What in a little bit of background, highlighted in the master plan, both from 2014 and the updated plan, or I'm sorry, 2015 and the updated plan of 2024, there was a significant emphasis in what I will describe as the municipal lot. All of our documentation, I think, listed as municipal lot number 1, but the one behind the Hardware Hills and the like, west of Prairie Street. So it had been identified as a significant portion of the overall downtown plan. One of the motivating factors that we've had internally is to fund projects like this with as much non-general fund tax dollars and certainly no debt. We have been saving money in 3 or 4 budgets. An opportunity came up through the MEDC. It's a very highly competitive grant application process. I believe there was 81 or 87 applicants. Ultimately, I think 25 or 27 statewide awards. And we were one of the few in Southwest Michigan to be able to receive the funding. I hesitate to, I don't want to, because I could answer some of these, but no decision's final yet. This is submitted. We have, this council did approve submitting for the grant last November, October. We had some initial engineering cost at the council level that they approved to do sketch and engineered drawings that are part of the grant process. And by no means is everything finalized at all. Some, because all 13 are appropriate and valid questions. You know, the curbs, islands, and sidewalks I know are all designed pre this. When we submitted it came up, and the plans have been done by engineers on the landscape side, traffic analysis engineers on probably Newhoff staff. And they're the same curbs that are currently on Main Street. I don't know the technical term for them, but they're not the standard curb along with the islands and sidewalks. And I guess at as we go through and we have conversations, and certainly the public will have opportunities for input, one of my experiences bullet talking point of my experience in the village of Vicksburg, and this is the totality of time, but I'll cite our downtown project, where a lot of effort went in behind the scenes, studying the patterns, if we reduce traffic lanes, downtown, especially on Prairie Street, went to a one-way on Main Street. Overall, availability to park studied, is what we come out of, I'll call it the boardroom, I guess, with the envision that this is an improvement. Whatever the final product is, should improve downtown Vicksburg. But where we use the vernacular improvement, it also is changed to a culture that's used to this parking lot's been configured that way as far as we could date back to the early 70s. So it's also change of habits. We understand the deliveries to all businesses, and the potential impact, but it'll also look at what alternatives could there be that don't impede something being delivered. We had discussions and looked at the northbound, southbound lane. We also had discussions about the two garages, what will be incorporated in the final design, to make that obviously accessible to those garages. A couple things, dumpsters. One of our goal is, and I'll start at this. So why do you want to improve? Why does a municipality want to improve the west side of those buildings with the walkway and just the improved lot itself? Because state legislation now allows, if we update the zoning appropriately, you could have two separate businesses on the first floor of your commercial district. So we know some build out plans. We know currently the buildings that are structured with front and rear egress. All of the buildings have rear egress. They might not avail them to their current customers, but we don't know future commercial developments. So one of the things the legislation did statewide is allow municipalities to say in your commercial district, you wouldn't be restricted to only one business on that first floor. You could divide them half and half. So in the future, and as we did an analysis looking at the next 30 years, how do we keep downtown Vicksburg relevant? We want to use that state legislation to avail developers and current owners to attract a second business. We see a trend that I'll say smaller retail boutique type shops might not need the floor plans that were laid out in the late 1800s and 1900s in town. They don't need that amount of square footage space. And part of our zoning ordinance restricts dividing that up, and it's kind of parallel things we're trying to get in place as we move forward on this project. So from a high altitude, that was our motivation, to make the west side more attractive. We obviously have a substantial investment going on in the three buildings on the north side. And we know, we've shared with the council, we've shared in public meetings because the developers shared with us what those concepts and looks are going to be. The same individual owns the building that the hardware store is in, as well as the brewery supply. So we have an idea of what the those buildings' exterior and accessibility could be here in the next 10 years. And again, the distant whistle and that. As it goes to the dumpsters, and that again is towards the attractiveness, if we're gonna, in our minds, are truly thinking 5, 10, 15, and 20 years out. For a developer to, or a commercial place to want to take the west half of that first floor, a lot of the dumpsters as they are would not be attractive. So this concept would have 3 large enclosed dumpsters areas that all of those buildings would use. It's similar multiple municipalities. One that we've looked at and would probably mirror is Grand Haven, which then would, and we would, because the municipality would own them, there obviously would predictably be a charge to the people assigned to those, but we would control one company picking up and limit those heavy trucks into that area. As far as the parking, because part of this ordinance update is going to incorporate second floor living downtown, because the trend of studies and data that we're exposed to, a key component to a community like ours surviving in the future is to have people living in your downtown. The current ordinance requires the developer to have appropriate parking spaces per square foot within 300 feet of that residence. On the literal, our current regulations and that doesn't entitle a building owner to assign a public parking spot to a tenant without an agreement of the municipality who owns the space. What we have done when we put in this parking lot next to the post office and those 28 spots, we utilized Downtown Development Association dollars, did a predictive analysis somewhere in the next 20 years, anywhere from 12 to 15 of those spots could be used for those developers to assign. So it would be something like developer A, it'd be $50 a month per parking spot. I'm completely winging that number. So then that would be built into the rent, and the municipality or DDA would have $500 to $700 monthly revenue in the future based on those parking lots. But municipalities, we want to encourage the developer for second floor living, and we have other things in the works I can't get into because they're just in negotiation phase, but we've identified other areas. Okay, if we have 100% control of this parking lot or X number of spaces, we can avail those spots to the developers. But there will be revenue. It won't be the owner of the building can say, I want these 2 spots for my tenants that for free. That's not something that would be done. So that's built in to those that analysis of, and I'm just kind of giving you some of the background of the thought process. And I want to stress, nothing is final, okay? And I'm glad you came, and I'm glad, and certainly we'll meet in the future, and we'll definitely keep you in the loop. Timeline, I have a meeting scheduled. I have one at a high altitude with the engineer firm tomorrow morning. Simply, it's a half hour or an hour before another scheduled meeting, and we're going to kind of talk through some stuff. But with the state of Michigan, we had to, today I answered what they requested us to answer after the grant was awarded. The next paperwork we'd have to have submitted to the state is by June 30th, and that's to make sure we have all of the financial stuff certified. The next deadline is September 30th to enter into an agreement with the state to execute, so then you would know the timeline of when money has to be spent and that. And that's where I'm saying I don't anticipate turning dirt on this project to calendar year 26. Some of that variable I'll know by September 30th when the state's directing it to be expensed by. So I again want to emphasize specific to the comments, I really appreciate you taking the time and triple, quadruple appreciate it being in writing so I don't have to go back to YouTube and listen to, or in that. And we're certainly going to communicate with all of our downtown merchants and building owners and solicit input and hopefully come up with the best plan that we can come up with. It is a lot of scoring points were based on environmental. We have considerable concerns. We have over 100-year-old storm system under that parking lot. The reality, we know that there were building materials just dumped in a hole back there. This also gets rid of what I'll describe as that landfill you have to get out of there to bring in new dirt. And then the green space had some points scored on it as well.
Is that the old house that sat on Washington Street?
I'm not sure where it originated. We did a couple, bored a couple core samples, and we hit building material. So we had to factor that in, and I say we very loosely. I rely on an engineering team to do that. But I give you my word, we're going to have a lot of input. I'm sure there'll be ideas we incorporate from the public, and I'm quite confident as most of these project goes, we won't be incorporating all 100% of every single idea that comes forward due to whatever constraint. But what we'll do is we'll communicate a reason if whatever question comes up, we would be able to have an answer to that. I have confidence in the traffic engineering advice that we receive, and I used the data points of projects we've been involved in, including the downtown projects. I sometimes, and people who sit around and listen, how social media is an excellent tool at times, and at other times misinformation is what it is. But when we did the downtown, people were concerned about the parking when we reconfigured downtown in 2021. And we had done studies of traffic counts. We actually had our police officers every hour of the day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for I think a 6 or 7 month period, count how many parking spots were filled by cars. Again, sometimes data is stubborn. None of the parking spots were ever filled, ever. And one variable there is when that was done. It was obviously before our downtown events because downtown's been done. But so we're doing the same thing, looking at what's best in totality. We understand a lot of people want the parking to be right in front of their store. If I'm going to the Rise and Dine, I'd love to park in front of the Rise and Dine and walk in. John will confirm I normally don't because it's busy when I'm there, so I walk a couple blocks. So with all that in mind, we're going to put forward the best. I guess and I'll open it up. Hopefully that gives you a little high altitude because I want you to walk away. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate you taking the time to.
Yeah, and I'll definitely meet after and maybe meet you down there where we can walk around and that. But I think the great news, you can just to be able to get $632,000 of what is our tax money, but went to the state and now it's coming back to have a positive impact on the community. I think I think when you see this, whatever the end product is, will be an improvement, especially with state-of-the-art storm, state-of-the-art environmental type stuff. So whatever that end product, end concept is, I'm 100%, I know it'll be better than what we have and very long lasting on some of those things. So, but answer any questions to anyone on the board or?
Hi, Mr. Member DeBalt. I guess what I wanted to think is, I know nothing's in solid right now,
Yeah.
and there's always been that way. Will there be more open meeting? Will there be a public meeting on the design of that at all? Or will it be just done from data that we get from Brian Newhoff?
There'll be communication with the public for sure.
Because that's the main thing. I think we need to get input from not just the building owners, but the merchant owners.
Yes,
And
I will
the-
tell you beforehand, some of that, not everyone's gonna be 100% happy.
No, I
There's
know
always
that.
Something that
I know that.
someone comes
And
up,
I
so
understand the
never-
beautification of that area needs a huge upgrade. Since I've been on the DDA for 10 years, that was the first thing we started 10 years ago, was talking about this.
Every
Okay,
public
so-
certified document has
So
it.
it's nice to see that we're moving along and moving along with the grant and stuff, because we knew it was gonna be that kind of a project. I guess my only opinion on the one-way drive, going one way, going from north to south, since Main Street is already one way, it would make logical sense that that road would be going the other way. Just to my opinion on that.
Yeah.
That, because then you've got two roads completely going that way. That's just one of the things I saw in that. Now we got two roads going that way.
Yeah, specific to that, when the design was,
And right now the road is that way, right? Because there's an arrow on that
Yeah,
road, but they have to go in that way.
Yeah.
A lot of the places go in that way, and I cut through there all the time. I don't, and you know.
that, the one, again, concept is you don't want to create a thoroughfare that people are driving through the lot just to get from Washington Street to Prairie Street. So here, let me finish if I can.
Yep.
A person who wants to get to Prairie Street simply has to go a half block to Michigan Avenue and go up to Prairie Street. So there, and also in the drawing that's in front of you, there is an ability to go north and then out to Michigan Avenue. But you want your parking lot to hold people that are going into the businesses and not, you know, that's all businesses downtown and within that walkable reach.
Right, but on that one-way road, there's no way into the parking lot from that road.
I'm not sure what road you're talking about.
The road, the one-way road going straight down from Prairie Street to Washington, there's just the parking right here, but there's no access to that other parking lot. From that, you gotta go back out onto Washington and go back in.
Well, I think.
And I know this is not solid, anything.
But here's
just-
what you have to remember, it's done by someone who's a paid professional in the area of parking lots to figure out the traffic flow. So as we sit here right now, I'll wait till the final design is completed, but I'm confident they know what they're doing.
Well, okay. I just
I
think,
can give you an example, the delivery trucks, Jaspers, had heavy concerns. We went to a one-way. And because of historical, cultural habits of a delivery driver. When we worked with Todd, we found alternatives that now have worked fine. And I'm sure with every delivery,
Yeah, they
we will
back
find
down.
that way because
they
it's just
back
the way
down
world
the
works.
Dollar General alley there
Yeah.
and pull in there. My truck has to park in front of the, in front of the fire station to deliver, okay? So there's another, and I'm not worried about that, and he ain't neither, because I've told him ways to get in there to back in, but, There's just a few concerns, but I just wonder if there'll be open meetings or if there will be any more comments.
Oh, there'll be,
On
yeah,
that.
there'll be plenty. This, I won't even have the details till that agreement is entered into on by September 30th.
Right. Okay, thanks.
I can say a couple of comments here, Jim. The funding, it's matching, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. And then, not to disparage engineers, but I can tell you, if you ask 10 of them, you're gonna get 10 different opinions.
I have 100% confident in the
You know.
engineers we've worked with for the last 9 years.
I don't doubt it. I'm just saying, I could show this to a couple guys and they'd probably come up with something different.
Yeah, okay. I'll reiterate, I think it's a damn good thing that we got $632,000 and we're at the stage we are at.
I agree.
I second that.
I don't think some of you understand what goes into getting that money.
Yeah, I would just say and echo, member DeVaults, I remember 8, 9, 10 years ago talking a lot about that being an opportunity to improve the downtown from the DDA's standpoint. And, you know, just the surface alone could be a big improvement. So really happy to see this come through. Should certainly be a celebration for the community and looking forward to what comes from it. So with that, I'll move on to the next thing, which is our DDA needs, wants, and wishes conversation.
Yeah, so we'll be presenting, I have had a couple members reach out, have met with a couple members. Overwhelming majority have not reached out for a one-on-one opportunity, so I'm proceeding forward with the DDA prep on the budget, and we'll present that at the June meeting. I do anticipate we will obviously have match money that comes from the DDA involved in the parking lot project. We do internally are looking at the cost of events to continue in the 26 summer, be it the Bird Days or other events, and we're looking at what has been the public improvement grant process for 2-year time period, having one $15,000 award and not the lower level awards, and we'll go into more details at the June meeting. But I'll happy to answer any questions or listen to anyone's comments or desires reference the fiscal year as it relates to the DDA.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item C, the boundary decorative fencing.
Yeah, item C, we're gonna, couple reasons, we're gonna balance out, this will be similar, calling it decorative fencing, that we put out in front of the Distant Whistle 2 years ago. We also, when we did the downtown project, have border fencing in front of Jasper's, and we're going to put it out at the bump out that's in front of China One and the Hideaway. It is at an amount of dollars that the village manager is approved to expense, but I wanted to listen to people's input. But we would like to get that, our goal is to have that in place certainly by the car show if the delivery can happen on that. But we wanted to notify the members of this board. Be happy to hear any comments or answer any questions on that.
When we put up those fences, does the social district still involve that area then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've asked all the liquor establishments, though both Jasper's and the Distant Whistle have that sidewalk area and a special, they've added that to their liquor license. Gotcha. But we've asked them to not serve glassware, to keep it consistent in social district cups and that type of thing in that area. And they both agreed. And my anticipation, if the Hideaway goes to have that special designation, they'd honor our request as well.
So it pretty much becomes an extension of their serving capability.
Correct. within the, I don't know enough of the details on the license, because it is a social district, someone can sit.
Within the law of the Liquor Control Commission that they.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I imagine if the legislation ever went away, that took away the social district, that area would remain.
Can I ask why in front of China One?
Well, it's the bump, it's just gonna outline the bump out,
Oh, okay.
so people can't
Oh,
walk out
I
into
gotcha.
traffic and that. And
I
then
got it.
There'll be an opening where the sidewalk connector is.
Good. Okay. Any other questions for village manager? All right, we'll move on to the last item from the amended agenda, Berg Bucks.
Yeah, I did some talking with multiple municipalities that have these programs since our last meeting. And it came down to the companies we looked at. We're going to proceed forward in the budget season. We only use that kind of loosely because there's no expense to the municipality. And actually under this program, from YIFT, there's no expense to the merchant. If the merchant's set up to receive MasterCard, this program will work. Other municipalities' program had the due to and due froms coming right from the municipality, which was not due to our size staff and that attractive. But I have provided the group with the community card customer agreement, in the different studies from 2 different towns, as well as the overall community card. So in our conversation, I went through a half-hour presentation with this company, come down to a downtown or a Vicksburg Bird Bucks type program. We believe that it is attainable to have all the merchants on board, the program in place, and to be able to flip the on switch by July 1st of this calendar year. So then it could be something to highlight with the downtown events, but of course, encouraging people for that retail shopping opportunities. So I'm glad it was brought forward to us, learned a lot. And I truly believe this, for our size municipality and our size staff, is the best program.
Great. So is YIFT different from there was another one that we were considering, or that we did like initial?
This has 30 municipalities in Michigan. They did $9 million of business, and this is the program. Our closest municipality is the city of Portage that uses the same company.
Nice. Great. Yeah, so are there any kind of goals that we're setting for this? Is that a little too soon for a program like this? Did they talk about?
Well, it have to structure, I guess, as we go, and that's what we'll hopefully know more by, I would say, the meeting in June. If there's an opportunity to find funding that might incentivize the first initial wave of to have people, a typical program would be something like you buy $100 gift card, you get $25 added to that. If you buy a $50 gift card, you get $10 added, some type of formula like that. And then in here, in the details of it, under federal law, the actual original gift card, so let's talk about that $100 gift card, there's X amount of years. Currently, I think he said there's 7 but on the portion of, if it was incentivized, it's a second card for $25, then the program can set the parameters, and most people place that 6 months. And the company, when that's registered, part of that registration requires an email. Every month they send, if that has a balance on it, it's a reminder email that goes out. So it's out of the three that we dug into more, this seemed to us the most efficient program there is.
Nice.
So,
And then, so do businesses have to participate in order for them?
they elect to participate or not,
Okay.
and they have data where, because a lot of people think just kind of restaurants or
Right.
other establishments like that, but they found that both in the boutique shopping, hardware would be an example, that truly any type of retail form or service oriented, whether it is, the massage place downtown, that type of stuff, all have value.
Yeah.
But it would be the independent business owner that makes the decision. The one requirement is the business has to be able to accept MasterCard, the credit card, because that's a platform that's used for
Okay.
this.
All right. But other than that, there's no other requirements of the business owners to participate?
No. No,
Wow.
or there's no additional cost, they have no fee cost, and they would have the MasterCard fee, which would be normal if anyone used a MasterCard. But there's no cost to them to be a part of this program, other than, registering and.
Wow.
and
Great. Any other questions for village manager and staff regarding bird bucks? We like our alliteration here. Okay, next item is village manager reports. Looks like we got a downtown event.
Yeah,
on.
that's the thing we want to highlight this Saturday. We've gotten good interaction, social media. I'm hoping the weather holds out. It's looking good. We'll have downtown streets will be coned off and starting in a progression fashion like we do on Saturday events around 9 in the morning on Prairie Street. Stage will be set up by 11. The 105-foot obstacle course will be set up at 2. First band starts at 3 to 4:30, and then the headline band is Night Moves, which is probably the most well-known Bob Seger tribute band. Stress to everyone, it is a free event to participate in the games and listen to music in our downtown. So it should be looking forward to it.
Cool. Great. All right, we'll move on to member comments. Any comments from our planning commission members?
This was a beautiful weekend with the Hardy Hustle on Saturday morning. A lot of runners. I don't know if they had a lot of record runners there, but it turned out. But there was a lot of people running there. And Mother's Day was a great weekend. Weather was perfect for everything all weekend.
And Jim, as someone who works for an organization that's constantly applying for grants, I know the kind of work that those take to submit. So, thank you for your leadership in getting those dollars awarded to the community.
Yep. I'll wrap up by saying thanks for moving so quickly on the bird bucks too. I'm really anxious to see how that benefits our community and downtown businesses and continues to drive commerce to our downtown. So thank you for the work that you did in a month's time. That's amazing. So, all right. With that said, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:54. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.